Okay, students. So, in the lesson, we have discussed the structure and function of the eye and ear. Eye is the optical sensory organ and ear is the auditory sensory organ. So, you all know the parts of these organs as well as how they function, and then you all know the defects or the diseases related to these organs and how to rectify them and how to maintain the health of these two organs. So, based on that, we will discuss some questions. I'll start off with the questions given in your textbook, grade 9, lesson 2. So, the exercise, I'm sure you all have already answered the questions. If not, answer it by yourself first and then listen to the discussion. The first one, select the correct or most suitable answer. So, it can be either correct or most suitable. The part that an image focuses on the human eye is. First one, vitreous humor. That is between the lens and the retina. It gives a shape to the eye and also allows the refracted rays to travel through. Eye lens, what does it do? It converges the rays or refracts the rays to form the image. An iris controls the size of the pupil so that the amount of light that enters the eye can be controlled. Then retina, that is the screen that is present in the eye, so that is where the image forms. So, the part that an image focuses on the human eye is retina. Then the second one, the defect that close objects can be seen clearly but distant objects can be seen blurred. So, you can see the close objects clear, distant objects are blurred. So, it has to be the short sight. Long sight, you can see the far objects clearly, close objects look blurred. Glaucoma is the reduction in vision or vision range due to the damage to optic nerve. Then cataract is the again opacity or the reduction in transparency due to the denaturation of protein, and short sight is the correct answer. So, the defect that close objects can be seen clearly but distant objects can be seen blurred, that is short sight. Then the next one, the organ in the ear that maintain the balance of the body. What is that? That is the semicircular canals. So, here we have cochlea, from the cochlea only the auditory senses, impulses are transmitted to the auditory nerve. Then external auditory canal, it directs the sound waves to the tympanic membrane. Ossicles again vibrate and transmit the sound waves received from the tympanic membrane to the cochlea. So, it is the semicircular canals. That's the fourth answer. The organ in the ear that maintain the balance of the body is semicircular canals. I will move on to the next one. Following are some statements that a student wrote about the ear and its function. So, the first statement, earlobes are cartilaginous. Yes, earlobes or pinna, that's why you are able to bend them. So, that is a correct statement. Cochlea transmits auditory senses to the auditory nerve. That is also correct. Cochlea transmit auditory senses to the auditory nerve. Ossicles are located in the external auditory canal. That is wrong. Why? Because the ossicles are located in the mid-ear, not related to the external auditory canal. So, that statement is wrong. So, here if you look at the combinations, A and B only correct. So, that is the correct answer. This is B and C only, A and C only, A, B, C and all. So, here it has to be A and B only. Fifth one, the range of audibility of the human ear that you know is 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. 2 Hz to 20,000? No. 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz, that's correct. 20 Hz to 200,000, that's wrong. 200 is wrong. Here it starts with 200 Hz, that's wrong. So, it has to be the range of audibility of the human ear is 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. I am sure you all were able to answer all these correctly. With that, I will move on to the next one. Following figure shows the structure of the human eye. So, you are familiar with the structure of the human eye. Write down the names and functions of each part in the eye denoted by English letters A to H. So, starting from A to H. What is A? Now, here you can see A points to this part of the eye here, and here it is this dark region. So, you all know in the middle we have the pupil. The size of the pupil is controlled by the iris. So, A is iris. A, iris. And what is the function of iris? It controls the light that enters into the eye by changing the size of the pupil. So, here controls the amount of light that enters the eye by changing the size of the pupil. That is the function of the eye. So, then we have the next structure, that is B. What is B? Now, here you can see we have already identified iris. So, this arrow points to these two parts. Here you can see it's the part here. So, it's the cover. What is that? The cover around the iris and everything. That is the cornea. Transparent layer, it protects the eye as well as allows light rays to pass through. So, it is cornea. B is cornea. That is the transparent layer that allows light to enter the eye. Then after that, what do we have? We have C. What is C? Can you all identify C there? Now here it is pointing to this part. That is the pore that is there, which is covered by the iris. What is it? It is the pupil. Through the pupil only light enters into the eye. So, you can identify that here as well. Now, these are the iris and here we have the pupil. So, this line points to the pupil. So, I will draw that line as well, the pupil. So, C, pupil. The pore through which light enters into the eye. Then so we have already identified the others A, B and C. Then what is D? Here you can see this structure, that is the lens. Behind the iris, pupil, that part, you can see the lens. So, D is this and that is the lens. D lens. What is the function of the lens? Refracts the light and forms the image. Refracts the light rays that enter into the eye and forms the image on the retina. You can even just say forms the image. Here, just to be more complete, I have written it as forms the image on the retina. Then after that, what do we have? After D, we have E. What is E? Can you all identify E here? Now this part. So the innermost layer. What is the innermost layer? But before we go to that innermost layer, students, if we look at all the other letters, now E, F, G and H. So before I go there, I will just label it and show you all here as well. Now if you look at this closely, E also points to the inner layer, H also points to the inner layer, G again points to the inner layer, but here you can see this part where G is pointed, you can see like a cleft, like an image-like region. So that has to be the fovea. So this will be the fovea or the yellow spot. So if we take H, H will be the retina. So H has to be the retina, and therefore this part E points to this middle area. That has to be the vitreous humor, the gel-like substance between the lens and the retina. So E will be vitreous humor. So F is going to be optic nerve. So since I am writing all these here, I will write these as well. D we identified as lens and C we identified as pupil and B is cornea and A is iris. So now I have to write for E, vitreous humor. E is vitreous humor. And what is the function of vitreous humor? It fills up the space between the lens and the retina and it gives a shape to the eyeball. So this fills the space between the lens and the retina and also gives a shape to the eyeball. So that is the function of E. Then after that, what do you have? After E, F, you can remember we identified it as optic nerve. So optic nerve, F is optic nerve. So what is the function of the optic nerve? It transmits the visual impulses to the brain. So this transmits the visual stimulus to the brain. Then what do we have? EF, we have to go on up to H. Now we have to write for G, that is fovea. So what is fovea? It's also known as the yellow spot. So we have G, that is fovea or yellow spot. What is the function of the fovea? That is the light sensitive region where the sharp image is formed on the retina. So here light sensitive region on the retina where sharp images are formed. Then after that, we have the H, that is retina. So what is H? H is retina. What happens in the retina? The image is formed on the retina, so it contains the light sensitive rod cells and cone cells. So it contains, or we can say light sensitive rod cells and cone cells are present. And also I will include image forms on the retina. So that is what happens in the retina. So I am sure you were also able to write all these. We will quickly go through all the parts and their functions. So here we identified A as iris. You were able to identify that. And what is B? B is the cornea. Can you see the cornea here, the darker region? Then we have C, the pupil. Then D is the lens. E is the vitreous humor. And then F is the optic nerve. G is fovea or yellow spot. And this part is the retina, H. So I'll quickly go through the functions as well. A is the iris. It controls the amount of light that enters the eye by changing the size of the pupil. Then B is cornea. B here you can see is cornea, transparent layer that allows light to enter the eye. Then we have C is the pupil, the pore through which light enters into the eye. Then D is the lens, refracts the light rays that enter into the eye and forms the image on the retina. Or you can even say focus the image onto the retina. That also can be written. You can say focus the image on the retina. That is also correct. Both give the same meaning. Then we have E, vitreous humor, fills the space between the lens and the retina, and it gives a shape to the eyeball. Or instead of saying fills the space between the lens and retina, you can also say present between the lens and the retina. That is also fine. Then optic nerve transmits the visual stimulus to the brain. G is fovea or yellow spot, light sensitive region on the retina where sharp images are formed. And finally, H is the retina, light sensitive rod cells and cone cells are present, and also the image forms on the retina. I am sure you were able to identify all the parts clearly and write their functions also correctly. With that, I will move on to the next slide. Now here again, using given English letters, mention the path of the auditory impulse that start from ear to the brain. So here auditory impulse that will be given here, auditory impulse. So what happens to the auditory impulse? They are directed into external auditory canal by the pinna or the earlobe. So initially it has to be the earlobe. So that will be earlobe A, then auditory canal or external auditory canal B. Then from there it reaches the tympanic membrane or the eardrum C. C vibrates. Because of that, E, F and G, the three ossicles. E, F and G, they vibrate, and once they vibrate, the auditory impulses are transmitted to J, that is the cochlea. It is transmitted to J, and from there it is given to K, and from there it reaches the brain. So is that okay, students? Were you all able to write the path? A, the sound waves comes to the pinna A, from there it's directed to B, external auditory canal, then C, tympanic membrane, E, F, G, incus, malleus and stapes, those are the three ossicles, and then we have the G, after G it is J, that is the cochlea, and finally K, that is the auditory nerve. So I am sure you were also able to write all these letters in correct order to show the path. Using given English letters, mention the path of the auditory impulse that start from ear to the brain. So from here to the brain. With that, students, we have completed the questions given in your textbook. But we need to practice more. So I have included some extra questions. I will move on to those. Extra question 1. Underline the most suitable answer. The number of muscles that fix the eye to the orbit is 3, 8, 6. How many? 6. So it has to be 6. Outermost layer of the eyeball is the retina, that is where the image forms. Choroid is inside the sclerotic layer, and the sclerotic layer is the outermost layer. So it has to be sclerotic. The layer that supplies blood to the eye is, that is the choroid. Sclerotic layer, it's the outermost. Cornea is again the continuation of sclerotic layer that becomes transparent in front so that light can enter into the eye. So it has to be the choroid layer. The amount of light entering the eye is controlled by the light enters through the pupil, and the size of the pupil is controlled by the iris. So iris, that is the correct answer. What is the blind spot? The point in the retina from where the optic nerve starts. So there are no images formed, or even if the image is formed, the vision is not possible. And retina is where the image forms. Then the fifth one. The light sensitive rod cells and cone cells are present in the retina. So again, cornea, you all know the transparent layer. It has to be the retina, and choroid is inside the sclerotic layer. It supplies blood to the eye. And the sixth one, structure that helps to change the curvature of the lens when necessary is that that is the ciliary muscles. So, iris helps to change the size of the pupil. Ciliary muscles change to help the size of the or the curvature of the lens, and eye muscles help to fix the eye to the orbit. With that, the next one. The visual stimulus from the retina is conveyed to the brain by the optic nerve that you all know. So, auditory nerve that carries the auditory senses, that is the sound energy. Optic nerve is the correct answer. Then sensory nerve, we all have not learned that yet. Sensory nerves, they are also nerves that actually receive stimulus. So, all the nerves say like that are present in your skin, the ear, tongue, everything together is known as sensory nerve. The nerves that receive senses or stimulus and takes it to the nervous system. Then the eighth one. A transparent jelly-like substance that fills the rear cavity of the lens is what? That is the vitreous humor. Aqueous humor is between the cornea and the lens. Vitreous humor is the transparent jelly-like substance that fills the rear cavity of the lens. And fovea is the spot in the retina where the sharp images are formed. The lens present in the eye is a biconvex lens. Not a biconcave lens or a plano-convex lens. It is a biconvex lens. The area of the retina that does not contain light-sensitive cells is known as the yellow spot, has all those. Blind spot, that is the part, and pupil is the pore inside in the iris through which light enters the eye, that you know. The hole that allows light to enter the eye is the pupil, not the yellow spot, it's the pupil and not the cornea. The image produced by the eye lens forms on the sclerotic layer, no, choroid layer, it has to be the retina. So, here students, normally choroid, we call it as choroid, but you can also mention it as choroid layer. I am sure you are also able to answer these correctly. Then I will move on to the next question. Extra question 2. Label the parts of the eye given below. So, here you need to label the parts of the eye. So, first one is A. What is A? It is the cornea. Then what is B? This region, that is the sclerotic layer. And C is the pupil. That is inside, you can see the pore. So, here students, we have to label the parts of the eye. You can see A is cornea and B is sclerotic layer and C is the pupil of the eye. I am sure you were also able to label them correctly. With that, I will move on to the next one. Extra question 3. A cross section of the human eye is given below. Label the parts. This, of course, I am sure you will be able to do it. I will start from the parts given this side. So, here you can see what is this? It is the eye muscle. Then what is the outermost layer there? That is the sclerotic layer. Sclerotic layer. Then the second one is choroid. And inside the choroid, the yellow color layer, that is the retina. And what is this part where the sharp image forms? It's the yellow spot or fovea. Then what is this spot? That is the blind spot. And this is the optic nerve. So, then we have the parts that are labeled on this side. So, here this is the iris. And what is this? That is the pupil. And what is this part? Between the cornea and the lens, it's the aqueous humor. So, here we have aqueous humor. That is this. Then this is the cornea. And here we have the lens. And what is this? These are the ciliary muscles. Those are these. And finally here we have vitreous humor. So if we go through all the parts, this is the iris that controls the size of the pupil. So here is the pupil. Between the lens and the cornea, it is the aqueous humor. Then here we have the cornea. Then the lens. Lens is held by the ciliary muscles. And this part which fills up the rear cavity of the eye is the vitreous humor. And on this side, we have the eye muscle. Again, here also we have an eye muscle. So, eye muscles on top and bottom, because you know there are 6 muscles. Sclerotic layer, choroid, retina, yellow spot or fovea, blind spot and optic nerve. So, I am sure you were also able to label all the parts correctly. With that, I will move on to the next one, extra question 4. Draw a diagram to illustrate the refraction of a parallel beam of light through a biconvex lens. So, to do that, we will first draw a line here. Then to show the biconvex lens. So, here they are parallel beams of light. So, in order to make them light rays, we have to use arrowheads. And all of them converge onto the same point. And this point is the focus. So, biconvex lens is a converging lens. It focuses all the rays onto the focal point or focus. So, you can call it the focus or focal point. So, draw a diagram to illustrate the refraction of a parallel beam of light through a biconvex lens. Then the next part. After refraction through the convex lens, light rays converge onto one point. That is what we have shown there. What is the name given to that point? It's known as the focus or focal point. Here I'll write both the names. You can write one. Focal point. You can either say focus or focal point. Then the next one. Extra question 5. Connect A and B. Before I read column A, I will just go through column B. Retina, aqueous humor, iris, sclerotic layer, yellow spot, vitreous humor, blind spot and ciliary muscle. So, white outermost layer of the eye that does not allow light to penetrate. What is that? It is the sclerotic layer. So, it has to be this. The point where a sharp image is formed on the retina. That is the yellow spot or fovea. So, that's here. Then inverted image forms on the retina. Changes the curvature of the eye lens based on the requirement, that is the ciliary muscle. A transparent watery liquid, that is the aqueous humor. Controls the amount of light entering the eye, that is the iris. So, here it is the iris. Helps to maintain the spherical shape of the eye, that is vitreous humor. And the area of the retina where no vision is possible although light is focused, that is the blind spot. So, I am sure you were also able to mark them, connect them correctly. Is this clear, students? White outermost layer of the eye that does not allow light to penetrate, that is the sclerotic layer. The point where a sharp image is formed on the retina, that is the yellow spot. Inverted image forms on the retina, changes the curvature of the eye lens based on the requirement, that is the ciliary muscle. A transparent watery liquid is aqueous humor, controls the amount of light entering the eye, that is the iris, helps to maintain the spherical shape of the eye, that is vitreous humor, and the area of the retina where no vision is possible although light is focused, that is the blind spot. So, I am sure you were also able to connect them correctly. With that, I'll move on to the next one. Extra question 6. Briefly explain how an image is formed on the retina of the eye. So, how does an image form on the retina of the eye? The light rays, it can be parallel rays that come from the distant object or divergent rays that are coming from the close object. They fall on the lens and the lens converge the rays onto the retina, forming the inverted diminished real image. So, that is how image is formed on the retina of the eye. So, here students, if we write the answer, the light rays enter into the eye. So, here if you want, you can include all the parts through which the light rays pass. Initially, there is the cornea, then there is the aqueous humor, then the pupil, the eye lens, then converges the light rays onto the retina. Here again, the light rays travel through the vitreous humor. Rays travel through vitreous humor. Image is real, inverted, and smaller than the object. So, this is how image forms on the retina of the eye. And here also you all know students, when we observe far or distant object, the curvature of the lens decreases, and when we observe close objects, the curvature of the lens increases. So, you can include that as well. As a note, you can say curvature of the lens decreases when looking at distant objects. And the curvature of the lens increases when looking at close objects. So that is the answer. So the light rays enter into the eye through cornea, aqueous humor and then pupil. The eye lens then converges the light rays onto the retina. So there the rays travel through the vitreous humor from the lens to the retina. Then the image that is formed is real, inverted and smaller than the object. And also the curvature of the lens decreases when looking at distant objects and curvature of the lens increases when looking at close objects. So here we have given all the necessary points related to the question. I am sure you were also able to write it, but you would have written it in your own words. So maybe the answer, the way you have put it is different, but still as long as you have all the information, that is correct. With that, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 7. Draw a ray diagram to illustrate the refraction of a parallel beam of light by a biconcave lens. Refraction of a parallel beam of light. So, note the points, a parallel beam by a biconcave lens. So, to do that, it has to be a biconcave lens. Then we need to draw parallel beam of light. A parallel beam So what does this biconcave lens do? It diverges the rays, but the rays appear to be coming from the focus, appear to be coming from one point. So you all know, students, it gets diverged, and when you extrapolate the rays, they look as if they are coming from the focal point. So at home, you all have the ruler, then you can easily draw the ray diagram. You can keep the ruler straight and draw. So here, for me to make it easy to draw, I'll draw each ray with the broken line as well. So first, now this ray, then there has to be an So here, so that is how the refraction takes place. All the rays get diverged, but when you extrapolate the rays, they look as if they are coming from the focus. So this is not a real focus. So is that clear to you all, students? This is different from the biconvex lens. Okay. So what is the focus of a biconcave lens? What do you need to write? The point from which the light rays appear to come from. The point from where the refracted rays appear to come from is known as the focus of the Biconcave lens. Biconcave lens. Because for a biconvex lens, all the rays converge onto one point. So that is the focus. But here, the rays appear to come from the focus. That is the difference. So with that, I will move on to the next one. Draw a convex lens with less curvature and a convex lens with high curvature. That is something you can easily do. Less curvature, so the lens has to be thin like that. Less curvature. And here, this is with a high curvature. Draw a ray diagram for an image formed from a far object on the retina of the eye. So this is for an object, a far object. So here you can see, draw a ray diagram for an image formed of a far object on the retina of the eye. So to do that, this is the eyeball. We need to have the lens there. Then when it is a far object, what type of rays come from a far object? They are parallel rays. So we need to get parallel rays. And these rays get refracted and form the image on the retina. So here we have the far object and this is the retina. And that is the biconvex lens. So if you draw this ray diagram correctly, then it is correct. With that, I'll move on to the next one. Draw a ray diagram for an image formed from a close object on the retina of the eye. So this is for a close object. Again, we need to have the eye, then the biconvex lens. So here, what type of rays come from a close object? Here, a close object. They have to be divergent rays. From a close objects, they are divergent rays. They are divergent rays, but they converge onto one point of the retina. So these are the rays. And here the image forms. Is that okay, students? So when it's far object, those are parallel rays. Close objects, those are divergent rays. Then the next one. Write two characteristics of the image formed in the above instance. What are the two characteristics? It's a real image and inverted image. Real image, why? Because it forms on the retina, that is like a screen, and it is inverted. Then the next one. Where does the image form in the above instance? It forms in the retina. So that is the answer. I am sure you are also able to answer these correctly. With that, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 10. Write the two defects in the eye due to the eyeball being too short and eyeball being too long. So if it is eyeball being too short, then the image will form behind the retina for close objects. That means the person has long sight. Long sight. And if the eyeball being too long, so it has to be short sight. Then the second one, where do you need to have the object in front of the eyes to see the object clearly? So you all know, students, at a certain range in front of the eye only you can see the object clearly. Now let's say we have the object book here, we read it, we can see the letters clearly. But what if we bring the book very close? Then you don't get a clear image. If you take it too far, but it's okay, but letters will become small, but still you can see the book. So starting from a certain point in front of your eye to a very long distance, you can see the objects clearly. Why is that? That is because only when the objects are between that distance, when there is a certain object distance, the curvature of the lens can change and the image can form on the retina. So as long as the object can form the image on the retina, it can be seen clearly. So where do you need to have the object in front of the eyes to see the object clearly? It has to be in a place or at a distance where the image forms on the retina. So object should be at a distance where the image forms on the retina with change in curvature of lens. So you all know, students, when you want to see a far object, the curvature has to be less. If you want to see a close objects, the curvature has to be more. So that is how the lens changes curvature and makes a clear image, forms a clear image on the retina, irrespective of the object distance. But if it becomes too close also you can't see. If it's too far also you won't see the clear image. Here you have to understand this. It has to be a clear image. So it shouldn't be too close or too far. Is it clear to you all? With that, I will move on to the next one. Extra question 11. Identify the defects of the eye shown below. Now here you can see the parallel rays come and the image forms in front of the retina. So what is that? It is short sight. Close objects can be seen, but the far object, the parallel rays far object cannot be seen clearly. Then here the divergent ray that comes from the close object. So that forms behind the retina. That means this is long sight. Long sight. Write the causes of the eye defects shown above. So what is the first one? It is the short sight. What are the causes? You can see you cannot see the far object clearly. It forms in front of the retina. So that means the eyeball is too long. So one reason, eyeball being too long. And what is the other reason? Inability to decrease the curvature of the lens. Why? To see the far objects, the lens has to be thin or the curvature has to be less. So short sight, you can't see far objects clearly. Then the next one is long sight. The next one is long sight. What are the causes of long sight? The eyeball being too short, and also inability to increase the curvature of the lens. Why? To see close objects, you need to have high curvature. So, inability to increase the curvature of the lens. So, I am sure you were able to identify the two defects as well as answer these questions. Then with that, the next one, extra question 12. Write how the eye defect shown below can be corrected. Draw a ray diagram to illustrate the above correction. So, what is this eye defect? You can see parallel rays, so far object, the image forms in front of the retina. So, it has to be, you can't see the far objects clearly. So, it has to be short sight. So, this is short sight. How can we correct it? Using meniscus concave lens. Why do we use concave lens? So that they can diverge the rays and then again it can be converged onto the retina. So that image will form slightly behind on the retina. So to draw the ray diagram. Here we although it has to be meniscus concave lens, we will be drawing a normal concave lens there. Then this is for short sight. The rays have to be parallel. They get diverged and fall on the lens. Again they get converged onto the retina. So these rays are refracted away, that is diverged, and then again they get converged. So this is how we correct short sight. With that, I will move on to the next one. Extra question 30. A grade 9 student finds it difficult to read the print of textbooks and newspapers. So what is her problem? She can see far objects, but the textbook and newspaper, you have to hold it close and read. So she cannot see the close objects clearly. So that means she has a problem of long sight. So what type of eye defect does the student have? She has long sight. What are the reasons for the above defect? One is that the eyeball is too short. So that is one reason. Eyeball being too short. What is the other reason? If you want to see close objects clearly, the curvature has to increase. So here there is an inability to increase the curvature of the lens. So those are the two reasons. Then the next one. The student is not willing to wear spectacles to correct the eye defect. Normally for long sight, what do we wear? We wear the convex lens so that the rays are converged and it helps to form on the retina, helps the image to form on the retina. But the student is not willing to wear spectacles to correct the defect. Suggest other possible remedies for this defect. What are the other possible remedies? She can undergo a corrective surgery. Normally they have many different techniques. A laser corrective surgery can be used to correct this method. So here we can just say she can undergo corrective surgery. What else can she do? If she doesn't like to wear spectacles, she can go for contact lenses. The lens that you wear over the eye, that is over the cornea, you wear the required lens. So instead of having the lens in the spectacles, the lens will be on the eye itself, on top of the eye ball. So she can use contact lenses. She can use contact lens. So those are two methods that can be utilized or used by her as remedies to correct the defect. I am sure you were also able to answer these. So with that, I will move on to the next one. Extra question 14. The diagrams above show the correction of eye defects. Identify the defects. So what is this correction? So here you can see the rays are coming from close objects. That is what is being corrected. So close objects are not seen clearly, but far objects will be seen clearly. So that means the person has long sight. Then the second one, that is this diagram. Here the rays that are coming parallel are diverged and then focused onto the retina. So that means the person can't see far objects clearly but can see close objects clearly. So that is short sight. With that, I will move on to the next question.